That is the sound of a distracted, divided, and dead American until they hear. Battle for Freedom, triggering change, one heartbeat at a time. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo Fiber Radio, and I'm glad that you are joining me. Let's start another week of fantastic love, joy, peace, information, insanity, and so much more. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo Fiber Radio, and I appreciate every last one of you who are following and listening as we get into this thing today called Just the Revelations. Are the scales falling? My website, Battle4Freedom.com. I also want you to go to Mojo50.com. If you are listening live on iHeartRadio or on Spreaker, you would know that you just probably finished listening to Defending 2A with Jason Gouffre. That's one of the many different shows that you can listen and hear and appreciate. If you go to Mojo50.com/schedule, you could find all the amazing schedules and hosts that you can hear that are on the weekend. Like yesterday, we had at 8 p.m., we had the Off Track Syndicate at about, I think it's 10 a.m. in the morning. We have Doug Ramsey. We have, I believe at 11 or noon, or it might be 1 o'clock, is Aaron Barker. There's so many different names. I can't memorize them all, so I need you to do that for me. And if you want to learn a little bit more, not just about myself or some of the other different hosts, why don't you go into facebook.com/Mojo Fiber Radio, and you can see the live broadcast happening. If you're catching it this morning or today, you can see Brian, you can see Heidi, you can see Linda, Josh and Jill, Lep, Mitchell, and Jen Lair Butler. All of them available that you can have a conversation with and having a great time. Listen, today it's just the whole idea of, again, just the revelations. Now, it won't be squeaking like some of my other melodies or that I've done in the past. Or instead of ballads, it's called ballads, melodies. You want to get a chance to listen. If you're not ready for the horrible sounds of Watson Prunier, may I recommend the sweet, soothed sounds of New Life Holistic biofeedback of therapy that can actually help you overcome a lot of the different ailments that sometimes just the medicine and jive talk just doesn't help you recover from. NewLifeHolistic.com. Go there. Let Dr. Anthony Macchiotti know that I sent you, because you don't want to hear the crazy, creaky voice of Watson. You want to hear the soothed sounds of New Life Holistic Biofeedback Healing, so that you can get that therapy and move on with your life. Tons of people have done it. Listeners of Mojo Fiber Radio, even hosts on Mojo Fiber Radio. Look at NewLifeHolistic.com right now. And while you're waiting for that, also may I consider you getting yourself some American Pride Roasters coffee, the official coffee of Mojo Fiber Radio, and enjoy it and just walk into an amazing Java experience that is far better than that drive-up nonsense that they kind of try to simulate as coffee, but it's just burned sewer water. Good morning, Kathy and Paige. I see that you, and Stephen, thank you for joining and being part of this program. So today, when I sit here and I say just the revelation, so it is a play on just my imagination once again, running away with me. Ooh. See, the thing is, there's this imagination that people have that they believe that no matter how much information, how much facts that we present to you, there's just this truth that's not being shared. There's just this common sense that's just not being shared. And the reason why we tell you this, and good morning, Amy, thanks for joining. We tell you this is because the fact is for your benefit, is for your health to understand. Stop, pause, and just reevaluate everything that's being given to you. Reevaluate the information and just ask the right questions. We're not saying that you should doubt. Doubting is something that comes to you as you review the evidence, as you review the information, and all of a sudden you start to realize, things are just not adding up here. Things are just not right now. There's so there's so many people who are believing the lie of evolution. We're missing. We're looking for a missing link. Everything just spontaneously came out of nowhere, but two things came together to make a whole bunch of other different things. But there was nothing there, but two things came. So where did the two things that came from that actually started everything? How did those come to pass? We can't talk about how everything started. Everything has to have a starting point. We don't ask that question. We just assume it. Evolution is accepted science. We don't want to talk about it. And that's it. Let's move on. Anyone else is just a nothing but a Neanderthal that we've constructed in the midst of our evolutionary lie. Well, there's more. There's out there. Not just evolution. There's more out there of issues taking place that you need to start asking questions on this. People have said they shared their concerns and they've been silenced because they have concerns about what's going on. So I'm just going to continue to share information with you and ask you, good morning, Carrie, thanks for joining. I'm going to ask you to consider just the information and the facts and ask yourself this. As we sit here and we look at this, I find this that folks, we need to be in prayer for India. India is already an overpopulated, very dense country. Honestly, the disaster toll that's taking place in India, I'm surprised. Why is it taking a year for India to be facing this stuff when India is more dense than most United States cities? Seriously. It's almost like it's like this timing thing that the virus is so smart that it takes it time to get all the way across the world to India. When the United States, you see, because they no longer have to sell the message here, United States, we got rid of Donald Trump. We got rid of Donald Trump. And now let's go to India. Let's push it back in the face of everybody, because now as the United States is recovering from the virus, as we're recovering and we're moving into this phase of possible herd immunity, as long as we get more than 28% of the population fully vaccinated, we'll get that magic number of people who are vaccinated in this country, and then all of a sudden things will get better. So we've got to keep the fear of the virus in the news. Why now? Why now are we hearing about this disaster hitting India? I was really surprised that in the midst of the height of everything going wrong in the United States, in Europe, in Africa, India is nowhere on the map. India, and again, India's population, their cities, every one of their cities are more dense. You have sometimes more people in one city than you have in one state in this country. But somehow, somewhere, actually not just one state, 5 states, 6 states. And so you sit here and you watch how India is devastating. Folks, there's a news out there where the families are being told, bury your dead in your own garden because our crematoriums are overwhelmed. They're breaking down. They're failing to keep up with the death toll. Folks, we need to be praying for India. We need to, not just India, because right now it's India. We had Europe that was devastated. We had the United States that was quote unquote devastated. And Africa. Africa is next. For the sycophants who want to control the world, Africa is next. The Bill Gates, the cabal, every last one of them, trust me, they want to rule this country. And so, hey, let's kill off a population. They're already at 1.3 billion people in India, so let's just get that population down. Less mouths to feed. Yeah. I bet you the people at the top of the caste system in India really made that decision really quickly as to who gets to die, who doesn't stick around any longer. Pray, because of the fact that the evil vileness that was basically lying to us here in this country, lying to us in Europe, lying to us around the world, is lying to the people of Israel, of India, and will be lying to the people in Africa as well. Wickedness is upon us. It levels. Oh my goodness, Amy's saying that she heard that they're killing them by cremating them while still alive. That is, for crying out loud, it's the Holocaust all over again. It's the Holocaust. The Holocaust in the womb, and even now the justified Holocaust outside the womb. Just the revelations. I was at a church yesterday, and the pastor was going through Revelation chapter 20, and he shared a very interesting perspective of it. I really appreciate the way he did this. A lot of people aren't ready for Revelation. The book of Revelation has a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of fear. There's rightful fear in this. And one of the things that's very interesting with this, as we sit here and we look at Revelations, when I sit here saying just the revelations, is the idea that we've been trying to contain the glory of God in our sin, in our haughty hearts. We have tried to overcome God's glory. We don't want his kingdom. We don't want his way. We're going to make heaven on earth better and without him. And God's saying, you could do everything you can to suppress me, suppress the truth, suppress reality, but I am still Lord. I am still King. I am still God. That is what he's saying to us. That's what the book of Revelation comes to reveal. Because from Genesis all the way to Revelation, humanity keeps trying to suppress the glory of God. I mean, that's exactly what sin is. Sin is about, it's about us suppressing the glory of God. Let me see if I can get this to you, because this is just me this morning as I am, not this passage, but this morning as I was sitting here working on Revelation, not just Revelation, but I'm in the book of Romans. And so I'm now in chapter 10. And I love this. This is the message of salvation to all, because everybody is concerned about the whole idea of being saved. But I tell you, heaven is more than about just being saved. Chapter 10, verse 5, it says, "For Moses writes about the righteousness that is based on the law, and that the person who does the commandments shall live by them. But the righteousness based on faith says, do not say in your heart, who will ascend into heaven, that is to bring Christ down, and who will ascend into the abyss, that is to bring Christ up from the dead. But what does it say? The word is near you and in your mouth and in your heart. That is the word of faith that we proclaim. Because if in your mouth, you in your mouth and your heart, that is the faith. Because if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For with the heart one believes and is justified, and with the mouth one confesses and is saved." See, the idea is everybody keeps looking at Romans chapter 10, verse 9 as part of the Romans road to salvation, and then we sit here and we confess God, and all of a sudden we're saved. He saved us. It's more than that. It's more than that. Good morning, Carolyn. Thank you for joining, and Carrie as well, and Mitchell. It's more than that. The idea, the concept here is that we have to get back to worshiping God. We have to get back to worshiping Christ. We have to put no one on the throne bigger than him. We worship God not just only because, no, honestly, when you look at the Lord's Prayer, it says, "Hallowed be your name." Why is it that hallowing, why is it that worshiping, why is it extolling God is the first thing out of the mouth of Jesus when he tells us to pray to God? The first thing he tells us to do is like what the elders are doing in Revelation. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. who is, who was, and is to come. This whole idea is that worship is the first mentality. It's the first spirit out of our mouths, out of our essence. Everything we do starts with worship. Long before we thank him for what he has done and the bread he's provided, we thank you because he is the bread of life, because he has created life, because he is God. But even now, even in the church, COVID has been raised higher than Christ. That the viruses has been raised higher than the victor on the cross. And we sit here and we try, we put people on the throne thinking that they're going to save America. And God is saying, this is bigger. This is bigger than that. It's about you getting back to the Psalm 19:1. The heavens declare the glory of God. The heavens. And so should we. But when we sin and we want something, and that's what Satan did. Satan took his eyes off of the throne of God and worshiping him. And he sinned against God. And that's exactly what we do. Every time I want something more than worshiping God, I sin against him. Every time we sin, let's be real. Let's look at our lives. Let's look back at the last few hours, few days, few weeks, few months, few years. And if you want to be honest and do a true evaluation of the sin in your life, in my life, let us look and see that the heart of that sin was us wanting something more than we wanted God. Satan took his eyes off the throne. He wanted the throne. He didn't want God. He wanted a reality without God, or reality he thought he could create better than God. And every time we sin, we are believing that we can create a reality for ourselves better than the reality that God has offered us. True. Without the shadow of a doubt, we all do the same thing. And so, do we thank God for salvation? Yes, because he saved us from this perpetual cycle of being saying, I don't care for what you have to offer. I mean, even you remember when I did a few weeks ago, and I talked to you about that one episode of Star Trek Next Generation where the infinite beings called the Q went to Picard to figure out what to do next because they got bored and tired of being eternal beings and they ran out of things to do. We say the idea, some of us balk at the idea, some of us cringe at the idea that when I go to heaven, I'm worshiping God 24/7. That all I'm doing is this big, huge worship service. Yeah, it's a worship service, worshiping him for who he is. When we stand in front of his glory and we see who he is and we behold who he is. And here's the crazier part about it, because we will have history to recognize what God saved us from. He saved us from ourselves. He saved us from eternal separation. Oh yeah, it's going to be a worship service 24/7. But we, in our short-sightedness, like Satan, we don't like the idea of just worshiping God. Like, there's got to be something else to do. I dare say, we're not sold out or all in, as many churches say. All in for Christ, because we're too busy thinking about what are we going to do when we get to heaven rather than what we should be doing. I say this because this is just a revelation. As we're sitting here and we're watching the wicked machinations of people with COVID-19 and everything like that. And even this idea that Joe Biden and they've promised a whole lot of aid. Where is this? Because I'm amazed with this all this time and all this energy that they have. Joe Biden and First Lady returned to the White House from a weekend in Delaware after he vowed to send aid to help India tackle COVID surge. President offered raw materials for COVID-19 vaccines, medical equipment, protective gear to help India. For the fourth straight day, India on Sunday set record of new coronavirus infections spurred by new variant. It's interesting that this variant has taken place. Again, the timing for me more than anything else. Folks, we need to be praying for India. It's not because a lot of people are perishing. A lot of people are dying, and many of them are dying without knowing Christ. We need to be praying, folks. We need to be praying, loving our neighbors, praying feverishly that the word of God has made it to that country, that there are servants out there preaching and sharing the word of life and truth, the gospel of redemption by Christ. But most important, the holiness of God, in whom we should worship in spirit and in truth. Recognizing our fallenness, our brokenness, and our emptiness, and without him. Folks, let us pray for India, a large country devastated by evil. Oh my goodness, this is, Lord help us. This is only going to get worse. You know, it's interesting. This is interesting. You have it, speaking of COVID. So fully open Texas and Florida are reporting fewer new cases per capita than Michigan, Pennsylvania, and New York, where mask mandates and others are still, COVID-19 restrictions are still in place. Data from the CDC shows that Data from the CDC shows that states like Texas and Florida, which have completely reopened, are reporting less cases than Michigan, Pennsylvania, and yeah, they're fudging the numbers. Oh, no, don't go there. We don't go there. We don't say anything about manipulating numbers, okay? Because if we can't talk about manipulated and falsified numbers during a certain event back in November of 2020, we can't talk about fudging and manipulating of numbers in Texas and Florida, because to do so would be utterly hypocritical. And you might, which you won't, get censored, which you won't, because facts just don't work themselves out like that when it comes to big tech and manipulating the masses. Yeah, alrighty then. Yeah, but the numbers aren't as bad. So because if we're supposed to trust the numbers, all the numbers back then when Trump was president, and even the numbers now, that means that the numbers, there has to be something about these mandates that we've got to ask the proper questions. See, I have to be guarded in what I say, because some may construe that I'm offering advice or making corrections about what COVID-19 and vaccines do. I'm not making such assertions. I'm just asking you to review the data. I'm asking you to look at the facts, the whole facts, and nothing but the brass tacks. Oh my goodness, it's just so funny. As you sit here and you watch this thing continue to unveil itself, you have to ask yourself, why? Why are the numbers happening like this? Oh, let's now. See, but then, okay. Then you have to wonder, why is it that Fauci is flip-flopping again? Oh, here we go. Dr. Fauci flip-flops again. Top infectious disease expert says outdoor COVID transmission is low, and updated mask guidelines due to be released by the CDC will exercise common sense. Dr. Fauci said CDC will update its guideline on mask wearing in public if you are vaccinated. Obviously, the risk is minuscule, he told ABC News. Fauci's been under fire for recommending not wearing masks a year ago. He advised public not to wear face coverings at the start. Oh boy, oh my goodness, this guy is so hypocritical, it's not even funny. Oh, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Fauci. We will return to the Dr. Fauci. For now, I'm your host, Watson Prunier. Let's go to a break. Talk to you on the flip side.
And now, Mommy at church. Mommy?
Yeah?
I'm hungry. Yeah, I'm hungry too.
Yes, girls. Mommy's hungry too. We will get something to eat when your daddy is ready. Let's all go to the bathroom.
10 minutes later. Almost done.
Mommy?
What can I do for you?
Why is Daddy taking so long? Awkward!
Because Daddy is a preacher and preachers have to talk to everyone.
Triggered! But isn't church over?
Baby, church is never over for preachers.
20 minutes later.
Why is Daddy still talking? Triggered!
Because Daddy has to take 15 minutes with every person he talks to.
Triggered! Triggered! Whoa! Ain't that the truth? Triggered!
Hey guys, let's get going.
I love being married to your dad.
Good morning, everyone. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle4Freedom on Mojo5 Radio. Oh my goodness, having too much fun. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle4Freedom on Mojo5 Radio, and my website, battle4freedom.com. I also want you to go to mojo50.com because this is how we do it. We have a whole lot of fun. We're sitting here, we're talking about the whole idea of just the revelations are the scale is falling. And if those of you who are watching online, who are watching this on Facebook or maybe watching this on YouTube or even Mojo50 TV, you get a chance to watch and enjoy a little break, a little snippet of just a picture of my life as best as I possibly can do this. Let's get back to this. Listen. You may, as the weather's getting warmer, you may want to get outside and you want to go on a picnic or do so much more because COVID has locked you down for so long. May I consider you going to catcoolers.com and getting yourself a cat cooler? The reason why is because you can keep your things up cold up to 7 days in a cat cooler. Go there, catcoolers.com. They have 27 quart, 55 quart, 88 quart. Give them the code Watson and save 10% on your purchase. Catcoolers.com. So as we sit here dealing with this whole idea of just the revelations once again, hopefully that's not going to be copywritten and even in that period of time. We were talking about Fauci before we left and how he flip-flops again and he's changing on what's going on with what's going on with vaccines and everything like that. There's this other article that I found that here it is. Let's go to this particular one because this is an interesting one here as we look at the numbers and how things keep changing here in reference to the vaccine. So we have it that nearly 8% of Americans who received their first COVID-19 shot are skipping out on the second dose. More than 5 million people, nearly 8% who received the first vaccine, COVID-19 shot, have skipped on their second dose of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. Some people have opted out of the second dose because they believe they're protected with a single shot, while others are fearful of flu-like side effects In addition, vaccine providers have been forced to cancel second dose appointments because they keep running out of supply. Meanwhile, some states are finding that people aren't interested in getting the shots and are having to turn down the vaccine deliveries altogether. So as we sit here and we look at this, I'm like, why in the world would people want to turn down the vaccine? Because of the vaccine is this miracle cure that's going to help everybody. Why would people want to do this? I mean, for crying out loud here, folks, this is cataclysmic that we wouldn't do this. How unloving can you be not to finish the process of the vaccine thing here? But wait. One of the things that they were saying that the states was running out of supplies. How can you be running out of supplies and Biden is now sending supplies over to India, sending supplies to Southern America, sending supplies to the border? How is it that we have cities and states that are running out of supplies? I thought we had 200 million gazillion doses that are out there that could actually make certain that everybody, that we got to this miracle number of 200 million people vaccinated. So how many? So then what are the numbers really saying? How many people are being vaccinated? Or how many people are vaccinated, fully vaccinated? Because is it possible that we will be facing more restrictions and lockdowns because of the fact that people are not getting vaccinated? I don't know. This is very, very interesting. I don't fully understand this. Very confusing. Because of the fact that everything that we were told last year and this year, I mean, President Biden said it in a video conference. He said that, hey, take the vaccines. I know there's a lot of variants out there. Go there, try it out, and trust me, you'll be saved. I mean, this is what he said. He told us, don't worry about this. This is what you get. Get the vaccine shot. You'll be perfectly fine. Now, people have come back and walked that back and said, no, we can't say that. We can't say that. So I'm done talking about vaccines. I want to get back into the other malady that's affecting our country. Police shootings, the killing of black people. Because this is crazy. If you go to facebook.com/Mojo5 Radio, again, I'm not a big advocate of Vox because they're more wrong than they are right. But there was an article that they wrote back in 2015 that I want us all to read and look at some of the different things that they're talking about in here, because I think we all have a misunderstanding of what policing is like. That we don't have an understanding of exactly how this thing works itself out. What are cops supposed to do in the face of danger? What are cops supposed to do when a crime is taking place? When cops are basically being brought forward. So read this article, but I also want you to we all have to do, this is not the end. I'm by no means saying that Vox is their end all solution. You'll never hear me say that. Don't even come close to saying that. All I'm saying is, what you see in this article, do your research and weigh the facts against the data that's presented by any person. And also understand that every last one of us comes with some kind of taint, some kind of misunderstanding of the truth. Even I do not have the full understanding and comprehension of the truth. That is solely reserved for God. I pray that He'll continue to open my eyes. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. And open the eyes of our hearts to the truth so that we can see Him, see His truth, see who He is, and actually fall down on our knees and fall down on our faces and worship Him. But the Vox wrote this article called, and this was in May of 2015. It says, how do police departments train cops train cops how to use force? Couple of points that they have in here. First one is departments want to give cops guidance about force, but their highest priority is keeping them from getting hurt. Exactly. See, a lot of people, we don't fully understand, because if you kill off the police, if you kill off enough police, they're basically saying, we can't go back in here. It's a danger zone. It's a threat to our safety. We can't go home to our family if there is no, because you remember, policing communities, it's a give and take situation here. There's double responsibility. The goal is the police are there to enforce the law. They're not there to prevent crimes because they can't fully prevent crimes, because in the heart of every man is this thing called sin and a natural aversion to authority and rules and the law. So police are stepping in and basically trying to enforce, trying to encourage us. But we have to be complying to want to agree that the law that's been given that tells us not to kill, not to murder, not to steal, not to lie, not to commit adultery, not to lust, not to be angry, that we have to agree that it's good, subject ourselves to that rule and comply. But we as Christians are not enforcers of the law. We are only heralders and followers of the law of God, the law of grace, the law of God. And even in the law of grace covers, because in it is also the 10 Commandments, not worshiping anybody else. I mean, the two greatest laws, loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, those are in the law. And thou shalt not kill is covered in love your neighbor as yourself. Thou shalt not steal is covered in love your neighbor as yourself. Not committing adultery, not coveting your neighbor's things is written in thou shalt not kill. Again, there is a responsibility for us to yield to these, even those who don't have the word of God. Romans 2:15 says they have the law of conscience written on their hearts. So when you look at whether it's Abraham or Abraham and Isaac, when the foreigners wanted to sleep with their wives, once they recognized that Abram was married to Sarah, I forgot which priest it was. He repented because he was like, "Why did you do this to me? Why did you put me in this position that I would sit here and be with your wife?" Even them who did not have the law of God, they had the law of conscience on them. So we know long before the police show up, we know that you shouldn't be beating up your spouse. We know you shouldn't be beating up your loved one. We know you shouldn't be trying to stab somebody with a knife. So long before the police have to show up to enforce or remind us of the law that we should be abiding by, we understand. The moment that we call the police, we're calling for the police for the law to be enforced. So they're only participants in our community to help us live up to what the standard of living was supposed to be like in the first place. Because we recognize when we're calling the police, there's something abnormally wrong with taking a knife and trying to harm someone. There's something wrong with the law of disobeying law enforcers to basically drop a knife and so much more. See, as we sit here and we look at this thing here, they talk about in this article that they have to protect themselves too, because if there's no one law enforcement, we already see what our communities look like when the police aren't there. You keep threatening them. You keep telling them you don't want them around. You keep telling them you're going to take money away from them. And you keep blaming them for the problems in the community rather than the community itself. You'll see what you don't have to defund. You don't have to take money away from them. They walk away. They pick up their stuff and they leave. They go where common sense is prevailed. Point 2, departments face a legal liability if their policies are stricter than what the law allows. It's always about being sued. Even right now, the mother of the Ma'Khia Bryant, she wants to go sue somebody. The natural birth mother who wasn't there with her daughter who was in foster care. She wants to sue somebody. 3, officers are trained that there's a force continuum, but they do not have to start at the lowest level. Now, this is very interesting because of the fact that this means that every officer, there's a level, there's a continuum, there's this model of what they go by and what situations require what amount of force to be carried out in those encounters. So that there are some times, because again, this whole idea that, oh, shoot him in the leg or shoot him in the arm or pull out a taser or all these different things. You are not, and we are not in these positions that we are in these positions that require us in a split-second decision to protect ourselves and everyone else around us. So instead, we quarterback rather than actually being quarterback right there in the moment. In the play, take the snap. The defense is coming out against me. I'm hoping that my offensive line, which is the community, is standing with me to protect me so I can carry out this play and execute this play of making certain that the law is being done. I'm just getting a little football for a lot of you. But then sometimes what happens is there's some people who miss their assignments, that some guards who do not pull right, they decide that they may have forgotten their rule. They stand there flat-footed, not knowing what to do when a linebacker or a safety comes in on a blitz that has wide open access to that police officer. The quarterback. And all of a sudden, the play is ruled dead. A possible fumble can take place. And the enemy can score. The criminal can score. I'm saying this to you because of the fact that there's a video that was out there that was shared on my timeline. I'll try and share it on my public timeline so you can see this, about a police officer who was dealing with a big black man. A big black man who had a knife, and another police officer who was equal his size tasered the black man with a knife in his hand. And the police officer goes in to remove the knife from him, and the black man who is tasered starts swinging the knife because the taser only had a 2-second reaction to paralyze him and neutralize him. And what it did do was the guy starts swinging and he starts chopping at the police officer. So this big black man that was supposed to be neutralized by the taser starts swinging and hacking at the police officer. See, the taser isn't always the answer. It isn't always the answer because the fact that when the police are called, when it's that bad that the police have to be called, that means that tons of people have already tried to gently talk down the situation, and it did not work. It doesn't matter how many counselors you bring out there, if the situation is that lethal, it already hasn't worked. The force continuum doesn't tell cops how. The force continuum doesn't tell cops how to de-escalate the situation. Number 4, there are no clear directions of what types of force are appropriate when citizens resist arrest. Did you hear that? There are no clear directions about what types of force are appropriate when citizens resist arrest. Citizens resist arrest. That mitigates another level of force because the issue of complying is not being responded to. Anything is possible. That guy who got tasered, who was resisting arrest, is now a threat to the police officer and the initial people who called the police in the first place. 5, cops want to be able to use more force on civilians who resist arrest. Now, here's my thing about this. This is sad because, again, this is the reason why I say, you hear the points, you go do your research in the beginning. This is the message that the media wants to push. Cops are just happy to just beat the nonsense out of black folk. They're just happy to just hurt people. Oh, we'll find every video that's out there, kind of like the video. There's this white cop who was in New Jersey, not New Jersey, he was in Virginia, and he says, "Don't make me whoop your bleep." He gets fired from it before yanking a black man out of the car who didn't want to comply. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about the fact that the black guy who's sitting there videotaping the cop who's asking him to step out of the car, he doesn't want to comply because of the fact that he's resisting arrest at this point. He feels that he is now some social justice warrior, that he needs his 5 seconds of fame or 15 seconds of fame because he's going to take down corruption, not realizing that his activity in not complying is the very corruption that only makes the matters worse because he will not comply to a simple request. Again, there's more to the story. We don't know the whole thing, but you know what? Sometimes you maybe need a beat down if you don't want to listen to a stinking simple request. Especially if you just can't comply. 6, tasers were supposed to be an alternative to deadly force, but that's not how they're used. Interesting. Here's another point that they say. Instead of ratcheting down deadly force, they are ratcheting up non-lethal force. Point 7, cops agree that an attack with a knife or a gun merits deadly force. Number 8, shooting to incapacitate is a myth. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. These are many of the different articles. If you go to facebook.com/Mojo5 Radio, I put the link on the website. And I'll try and also, when you go to Battle4Freedom.com, my newly designed website as of last week, I'll make certain that the link is in there as well for you to look at this. The reason why I go through all these different things is because, okay, so there's this new thing out there, and I'm concerned about it. In Elizabeth City, I guess, North Carolina, there's some shooting of a guy named Andrew Brown. Police officers don't want to reveal the tapes on what's going on, and so people are demanding that the tapes, even the sheriff is demanding the webcam, or not the webcam, the body cam of what took place, why Andrew Brown was shot. See, now, again, we don't know what's going on here. We don't know what's going on here. There's more to the story. There's more that we need to hear as to why Andrew Brown was shot. But here's my thing, too. Are you ready to possibly hear something that you don't want to see? See, even here in Indianapolis with Drayson Reed, a lot of people are so angry because they believe he was assassinated by the police because dirty cops. No one wants to talk about the fact that Drayson Reed was actively fleeing police, bragging about it on social media. Also, on social media, had video footage of him randomly shooting into cities and into homes and building businesses in the middle of the night with a gun that people said he didn't have. We don't want to talk about it. We can't have that conversation. And we're going to continue having the conversations. So whatever happens going on with is there a problem as to why we're not seeing the police cam footage? I mean, I think it is concerning, but once we get the data, if cops are incriminated, let the cops be incriminated. But if a black man is found guilty of what he was doing, hello, I pray that you are not going to sit here and say that the tapes were doctored. And I'm praying that the tapes aren't doctored to let us see and understand what's going on. Let's move beyond that one. Let's go to, this is one I want you to see. This was a very, very interesting one. This was a jaywalker last week. This guy decides that he wants to jaywalk. Now, this isn't just crossing the street. This is actually walking out in front of cars in forward traffic between the left lane and even, people going straight. He is now in the middle of the street, and he's deciding that as a police officer has asked him, say, hey, listen, dude, do this. He turns around and he doesn't want to listen. He's out in the middle of the street. He pulls out a knife. when the police officer is telling him to pull away and get off of the street. Now, everybody wants to focus on the fact that this police officer was already involved in another police action shooting. But no one wants to talk about the fact of the crazy black man who's walking out in the middle of the street when cars are supposed to be passing. This is not a crosswalk. He created a crosswalk. This is a whole new form of jaywalking. That you actually decide that where cars have to turn left, cars have to go straight, you're going to walk in front of these cars? But the thing about it is that there was other activity that he was doing that alerted the police to him in the first place. But everybody's going to focus on the idea that the police officer pulled out a gun, boom, and shot him dead. Right there in the middle of the street, like an animal. But he's sitting there with a knife, not complying, already resisting, doesn't want to respond. The police officer spends 27 seconds having a conversation with him before he has to turn around and pull his revolver, pull out his firearm and shoot. One shot, torso, proper gun control to eliminate a threat. Because you're like, well, he should have shot him with a taser. I already told you about the video of shooting somebody with a taser. Here he's got a knife. Well, yes. And now if you sit there and you look at it, he's within 20 feet of the police officer. He's within 15 feet of the police officer. So if he actually decided at that one moment with his gun no longer to comply and actually make the police officer a victim of his insanity, police officer's dead. Because you can close, we in our rebellion have superhuman strength and speed. And we can close the gap. It is fact. You can close the gap of 15 feet in less than a second. You could be on top of somebody. And before they have time, if their gun is not drawn, they are dead. Please, when you pull out your gun and you have to eliminate a threat, you have to put as much distance behind yourself because one shot may not be all it takes. One shot, man, especially if you're going to go with a smaller caliber like a 9mm and you do not have proper placement, because you're probably going to have to empty your whole magazine of a 9mm. It looks like it probably could have been I don't know. Either there was a great shot placed by the officer in that video, or he went with a higher caliber, higher stopping power, and put the threat down. See, we don't want to have this conversation. We don't want to talk about this. Yeah. People want suicide by cops. And everybody's going to be like, oh, look at it. There you go again. Cops get the first, why are they going to keep going to the gun? Why do we have to keep on going to breaking the law? Why do we have to keep breaking the law? Hey, this young star is responsible. You remember that last week when I showed you that Infinity that had like 18 to 20 shots in it? Had the little 7-year-old girl who got killed with, almost, and her dad almost died in that McDonald's drive-thru. Here's the star who shot and killed her. This is the guy who's been arrested. Marion Lewis faces first-degree murder charge that after Jaslyn Adams was killed on April 18th in Chicago's West Side. Her dad, Jonte Adams, was seriously injured. Lewis faces 3 counts of attempted murder and aggravated assault of a police officer. And oh, wait. You're telling me that this bright starling wanted to comply with police? He doesn't want to comply with the regular laws that say you should not be shooting at people for no reason. I don't care if it's a rat war or whatever, or a gang war or whatever. But hey, that's not the problem killing black Americans. We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. Holy cow, I'm not even going to hit everything that I want to on this. Yeah, there's more videos I want to share. There's a black father who's speaking up about how he's tired of what's going on. There are small pockets of black folk who are starting to say is enough. Here's another one in Chicago again. This sweet little gentle giant shot a police officer. He's being pursued by police, and with one amazing shot, hits a police officer. He's pulled to safety by his partner, and this kid is shot dead. We don't have that conversation. We don't have that conversation, do we? Here's the one last one I want to bring out before this. So, more revelations, just a revelation. Here's a picture of Bill Clinton, former President Bill Clinton, with Ghislaine Maxwell, as well as Jeffrey Epstein in the White House. As more and more information comes out here, folks, it's not conspiracy theory that we've been talking about all this time. It's the truth you've been ignoring. The truth you've been ignoring about the sex slave trade. The truth about so much more that is taking place in this country, perpetuated by the people who are in power right now. Because they want to maintain power, they want to maintain secrecy, they don't want their truth coming out, but they'll expose you all day long. Hopefully the scales are starting to come off your eyes. If not, it'll be to your detriment. To your detriment at all. I mean, fully. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo Fiber Radio. Brad Staggs and the Daily Mojo with Ron Off the Grays up next. And I'm out.